Alrighty, welcome everybody. We are now live. Should be able to see what I see here. And give me just a second and we'll get started right into this. Today we're going to be covering European profile cylinders. So if you have not ever dealt with Euro profile cylinders, then this will be a new concept for you. Alrighty, so if there's any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat section and we'll be able to respond to them either way. And let's go ahead and see if we can get started with this here. I'm going to get another link pulled up. I'm going to get another link pulled up here, and then we should be able to have all our video links. Give me just 1 second. Okay, so the email link didn't work. All right. We're trying to make sure that all this stuff comes through, but sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes we just have technical difficulties, and sometimes those links don't go through. I have to utilize other people in order to help make sure that everything goes through. So one of the first things that we'll do is let's see here. We're going to do a screen share, extra camera, or video file. This should work. Hopefully you can see that, and then hopefully we'll have sound here as well.
Hey, what's going on? There, guys, this is Wayne with Rekeying Locksmith.
So let me know in the chat section if you have sound for the video.
And today we got a CES profile cylinder. These things can have some issues if they're really old. The little retaining cap that's up here can kind of come apart and be a pain. This one here has no keys for it. And we basically rekey this the same way anyways. So basically what I like to do is take a little hook like this and just kind of pop this thing up like so. And we'll show you a couple different ways to go ahead and do this. Like you can see there's actually a hole specifically made for this purpose right here. Now that's if it all goes according to plan. You can go ahead and pop that off there. But half the time, if these are really old, you'll just crack this and break it, and then you won't have a cap to put back on here. So we'll show you a little trick for that too. I'm just going to dump this out right here. Some spool pins and all kinds of stuff. Then I usually just take a key blank and run it through there. Make sure that we've got everything out. See what's on it. Yeah. Come on. Make sure we got everything out of there. Also, if you've got a little compressed air, if you've got I don't have my thing, but you can blow a little compressed air in there too to get any of those extra last pins out of there. It looks like we've gone ahead and got it. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in here. So I just stick my key in like so. Keep in mind that there is spring tension. So in order, you'll notice that if you're only in if you're not in 100% of the way, you're not going to catch that lobe right here. And you can see now if I push it in all the way that it does turn that. However, if I let it out just a little bit, it will not catch that. So that's something you're going to have to keep in mind with these here. So I'm going to push that in all the way, make sure we're lined up, and start out with our first pin. What I like to do is check it, because sometimes you can be a number off. Like even if it would be a, I'm thinking that's what's going to happen here. Like say if we're trying to fit a number 4 pin in and this key says number 4, it's still not working, okay? So that means that there's a difference in tolerances. So what we'll need to do is get that pin out. Hopefully get it out of there. There we go. And then we'll just go, usually it'll be the next size down. So if we have a 4 and it's not a 4, we're going to put a 3 in. And hopefully that will be it. And then that'll tell us the rest of the way exactly what we need to do. So you can see now we've got that in there. I go ahead and poke that down so that way you know you don't have too short a pin. So I'm acting as a top spring here. So if I can move that, we're good to go. Let's see here. So now I know that each number is going to be 1 down from that. And if I have a key blank that says that it calls for an O cut, it's not going to be compatible with this lock. So no O cuts are going to be compatible with this. So we'll just finish up. There we go. These things are kind of a pain to deal with here, because you got to stuff each one down in there. You got to dump the whole cylinder, repack all the top springs, all the bottom springs. Really just kind of annoying, to be honest. Okay, and I forgot how many I put in there. Is that all of them? I can't even tell now. Nope, that's 3. 4, so we gotta do this one. 4. And every time you let that key pop back out, you're gonna have to retuck every single pin. So it's a good idea to just go ahead and keep it right in there. Okay. So then this one here came stuffed with a pretty nasty little spool pin. So we take note of that, and that way we'll know if we're trying to pick this lock. Probably going to be a little grumpy to do. I'm going to load everything up before I take my key out, because it's a lot easier to find out where the error is as you're going and rebuilding the lock if you do have an error. Hopefully we've done everything right. We do not have anything like that. We're ready to go. And one more nasty, big, nasty spool pin. Okay, so now I'm going to put my finger on there, make sure this key works, pull it in, pull it out, make sure that key works in there. And then let's say that we trashed our plastic piece here. I'll show you my little trick for that. Let's see what I have. This is screen stuff you'd put a screen in, like if you're like a screen door, screen window. I'll tilt that camera up there so we can see what we got going on. But I'm just going to lay that right in there. Take my knife, measure that right there, and pop that off. So now this screen backing material, or the screening material, I'm just going to tuck right in. And it should tuck in pretty easily. Both sides here. And that will hold your pins down in there. It will let everything operate correctly. And it's a nice, simple, easy repair if you broke the other plastic thing that came off of there. So there's a CES for you. For more information, tips, and tricks, check out the website below and check out wayneslockshop.com. Thanks for watching.
Which one is that? Too many tabs pulled up. Okay, so there is one version of the profile cylinders. Next, we can take a look at a little bit different version. .2.871. So this is a custom jig that was printed off, and we used
Good morning
3D
and
printing.
welcome to the Locksmith Ledger.
So this is
Today
a
we're
really
going to
cool
cover
way to
the
do this,
3D wolf printing profile cylinder front follower system. This system allows you to rekey a profile cylinder from the front by starting off by removing this retaining clip, like so, from your profile cylinder, and then inserting it into the profile cradle. After you insert into the profile cradle, you can install this set screw to hold it in place. It is pre-drilled and uses the threads of the actual profile cylinder itself to seat the profile cylinder. You can see how this wire is going to be our follower that goes through the bottom of the keyway. And in order to get this set up properly, we're going to need to use this leashy tool to pick the lock first. After the lock is picked, you then insert the wire, and the wire holds the top pins in the Bible as you rekey the actual plug of the cylinder. Here we see our key with the new key pins installed. Everything looks flush, flat, and nice, ready to go. And here is our cylinder ready to accept that plug with all of those top pins stuck back up in the top. Here, Josh is now putting the plug back into the cylinder and reinstalling the retaining clip. After the retaining clip has been installed, the screw can be removed after the plug is fully seated in the flat position, like so. And you are almost done fully rekeying your profile cylinder. We then pull that set screw out and then test the key in both directions, like so. And we now have a fully rekeyed profile cylinder for those cylinders that may not have serviceable options from the top. You can now rekey them with this system. For more information, check out the website below, and thank you for watching.
All right, so the screen spline is a great option for you as well. Those little plastic caps, they break all the time. And this is a good way to be able to resolve that problem. Wayne with Rekeying Locksmith service. And this is going to be a little helpful tip video. Basically, if you have a profile cylinder, it doesn't have to be this specific brand. This is a CES, but any of these cylinders it'll work on. Basically, there's two kinds of cylinders. Well, there's three actually. There's some that have the plastic insert that holds all your pins and springs in that gets inserted here. And the problem with that is it becomes brittle and it can easily crack and be damaged when you're trying to rekey these. The other kind has the hex screws, has the hex set screws for each individual hole. Those are my favorite. Those are the best kind. They're the easiest to work with, the most high quality, and they last the longest. And the third kind are ones that come out of Austria, and they don't have any way to rekey them. This would just be completely sealed off with no way to access the pins. But for these, I have developed a little tip and a little trick. Once you get the plastic out and say that it gets ruined or broken or whatever, you would then be able to dump all the pins out and the springs, and then you'd be able to insert your key. You'd begin to be able to start rebuilding this, adding the pins in association with the numbers on the key. And then when it comes back time to putting everything back together, I found this screen, the thicker screen material. Basically, this is what you would put in to hold screen into like a window frame. We would just take this and cut it directly in line with that, like so. And then after you put everything back in, you put your top pins and you put your springs back in here, you'd then be able to take this and you would be able to gently tuck it in until it was all tucked in all the way. And it's not going to matter that nothing's in there. It's the exact same whether pins and springs are in there or not. And then it's going to mount flush just like that. It's one of the few things that fits identically perfect right inside there. So it's going to allow you to slide this back into your cylinder and go ahead and get it back in there and reinstall this piece. And then when you want to rekey it again for the next guy, you just simply have to grab the rubber and it comes right out just like that. So this is a quick little tip. Those little pieces are almost impossible to find. The original plastic inserts in here, and this stuff is super cheap and a super easy, cheap way to go ahead and be able to fix those cylinders, those profile cylinders that you have at home by yourself without having to order special parts. I just love how it just tucked perfectly in there. It's amazing that something can fit for something it wasn't meant for so perfectly. So for more information, go to www.tricountylocksmithservice.com. All right, so there's our screen spline. Very easy to see, very easy to use. Wanted to take a look at the Triton Plus key machine for a second. We're getting to the point where this is taking a lot of time, and the time that it takes to do all of this stuff is very valuable. So we need to have some sponsorship, and one of the companies that has sponsored us and treated us really well is the Triton key machine from Lock Lab. Very cool. Triton key machine, don't think that it's just for automotive use. I don't even do any automotive work, and I still use this machine all the time. we've got one right here behind me. I actually have two of these machines. One of them's the one right here behind me. This is the Plus, and then I have the older one mounted up in the van or in the truck as well. I use them only for pin tumbler locks, cam locks, and basically I use it for everything but automotive, and it works amazingly well. It's got code software pretty much built into it. So instead of having to look up codes on your phone, you can say what kind of lock it is, what key blank it is. You can actually punch that in directly into the LCD screen, and it'll give you the cuts, and it'll give you some basic code cutting software right in the machine itself. It's also updatable, so it's constantly being upgraded and updated. Rock solid machine. It's been banging around in my truck for over a year, and I've never had a problem with it in any way, shape, or form. Highly recommended.
So today we're going to be rekeying a profile cylinder. Now I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this. One of them is going to be from the top up, and then I'll also attach a video that's going to be from the bottom, where we actually take the cylinder apart and actually use like a cradle to get this thing undone. Also, we might have Allen head.
So the one from the bottom is the video that we watched with the cradle. This video was still uploading as of a couple minutes ago. That's how busy I am. I'm very under the gun and spread about this thin. I'm spread thin enough you can see through. So this just got uploaded up and all the editing got done. But you can key them from the bottom up or from the top down. Either way, you just have to have the cradle to do it, not from the top.
Pieces up here, or we could also possibly have a strip or a cap or a sliding cap that goes in here, or a plastic white cap. If you have those plastic caps or caps of any kind, I highly recommend you keep some screen spline in your truck, because those plastic caps tend to break, and you can actually stuff that down in there and it will hold all of the top pins in place while you service the cylinder or while you put it back. The other thing we're going to need right here is a 16th inch, I believe it's 16th inch Allen head. So let's see if we can get a little pic of that. Put those over there. Okay, so what I like to do is make sure that you keep all of these pieces directly in order with the way they came out. So I'm going to, and then we're literally going to pretty much intentionally explode the cylinder or dump it all out. Now, if you're working on one of these that's out in the field and hasn't been used in a long time, really good idea to run some brake clean or some kind of solvent through the cylinder, blow it out really good, get it all dried off, get all the solvent dissolved off of it, and then rehydrate it before you start trying to service it with either some super slick or brake clean or whatever you want to use. Just because that's going to really help those pins free up. What can happen is they get stuck in here, and because this actually sits upside down in the door like this, when it sits upside down like this in the door, all of the dirt, debris, and crap is getting stuck down in those the pin chambers. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, I guess I dumped them all out. Okay. And then the rest will be springs. Okay. So now we just kind of organize this, and then I would get a key blank as well. And if you're having trouble with pins coming out, wrapping this back and forth is going to be a good thing. And then you can also manipulate the cylinder and the pins from the top. You get a pick or something you can shove down in there, kind of grab things, grab a spring, hook it back out. All of that fun stuff can happen while you've got it in this position. So what are we going to need to do now? It would almost be like rekeying this to a different key, because I don't know which of the pins actually fit in there. So one of the things that you'll need to do is, like, this one has the number stamped on it. I'll also tell you another little trick and secret about these locks. Oftentimes, the number that is written on the key and the actual pin that will fit in there could possibly be different. And what I mean by that is,
a lot of times I find these cylinders there, we've got them all over the place here. A lot of times the plug milling is different on this than almost any other cylinder. And therefore it's going to take a different size pin because that root depth is now different because the circumference of the lock is now actually different, if you're following me on this. So if it calls for a number 6 pin, it would actually be a number 5 that actually fits in there. And let me see if that's going to hold true with this one. Okay, and there's a way to test. Also, you're going to need to make sure that you always push this key all the way in. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it likes to stick out. Okay, it likes to stick out a little bit. And that is not helpful sometimes. Okay, so you're going to have to remember, if you just think you're going to hold the key and just let it sit there, not the case. So what I'll do is, this is a number 6 pin, and it's calling for a number 6 right here on the thing. Let's see if we can get a better view of that. There we go. Okay, number 6. Number 6. Oop, I think I dropped it in the wrong way. Make sure it's pinpointed down. Okay. And then before I add anything else, I'm going to push the key in all the way, and I'm going to push and stuff that pin all the way down from the top. And I'm going to check and see if I can turn freely. So this is one of those occasions where these, I believe they're US made GMS cylinders, are actually what they say they are. A lot of times you'll run into Hoppy and Eva and all of these different ones out in the field. If you do, and the pin that you're putting in is not correct, it will let you know right then and there. Okay, so I've got one of these that's a 7. So in order, I'm going to just reuse the pins. I'm just going to set them up in order from biggest to smallest. This is also a really cool technique you can use if you do what I did and just dump the cylinder and don't know which pins go where. Okay, I'm going to start off by lining them all up, putting them all in a row like this. This is actually Locksmith tip right here. Okay, see if we can get a picture of that real close. Okay, this is a Locksmith tip right here. The reason I do that is now I'll be able to just run through and see what we have. Okay, so I need a 6. So I can tell that one of those, that one's my 7. So I'm going to use my 6. I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to do. So we had a question here, and it's actually a really good question. And one of those questions is, why do we see these multi-point style doors? The doors that take multi-point hardware, they're referred to as Hoppy doors. GU makes them. Peachtree doors is another terminology for them. Hurricane doors is another terminology for them. Euro profile cylinder doors, cassette style doors. Multi-point locking is the most common term. And what that basically means is this cylinder is designed to work with a gear cassette that has a lever or a handle or sometimes a knob, but it's usually a lever. And it actually activates a track frame, which shoots bolts up into the top. And they're called bolts or they're called tongues. And they'll either come out from the center and come in at the top and bottom of the door as well laterally, or they'll shoot up and down vertically. So they'll shoot up and down like this. And when they shoot up and down like this or into here, it gives you what's called multiple points of contact. That's why we call them multi-point cylinders or multi-point hardware. The multiple points of contact seal the door up against the frame and press it up against the weather stripping. That way it does two things. Well, it does several things. It creates a tighter seal, so it doesn't let your conditioned air out or your heated air out. It doesn't let the cold air in because it seals it tight up against that weather stripping. And it also makes it more secure because there's multiple points of contact instead of just one. A conventional door here in the United States would have a lever or a knob lock on the bottom, and it would shut, and that one spring latch would be all that locks the door. If you add security to your door, which almost everybody does, there would be an additional deadbolt on top, but neither of those things really suck the door into the weather stripping and seal it tight. those multiple points of contact also increase strength. You notice how a vault door has lots of bolts that go into the door and into the frame. The more points of contact, the more secure it is, because you can't just pry it open very easily or cut one latch or credit card the door or do any of those simple things that it takes to open the door. The other reason is for hurricanes. Hurricanes provide pressure, external and internal pressure, or negative pressure or positive pressure, pushing on that door, trying to rip the door open. If your home is in a state where hurricanes are very, very common, if you open one door or one window, it creates a vacuum and it can blow out all the rest of the doors and the windows in the house. So the fact that the wind cannot push that door open or objects, it's going to withstand an attack much longer from weather and from people. That is why we have multi-point hardware here in the United States. It originated over in Europe, and in Europe, most of their security measures are far superior to ours. The Americans usually catch up to the European technology later because the crime has been there longer and there's more crime in general, in my opinion, in some areas. Therefore, they need to advance themselves. Their technology is older. Their states and countries are older than the United States. So they've had a lot more time to come up with better ways to keep people out of things. Hopefully that answers everybody's questions.
Do the test where I shove it all the way down, push the key all the way in, and then I'm going to rebuild each and every one of these cylinders one at a time, or these chambers rather, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to do one, and then I'm going to straight. Next, I put the bottom pin in first. I test it, and then I'll put my top pin in. I'll test it again. I'll put my. This is going to save you so much time and pain and anguish if you listen to me. Okay, put my spring in. Turn it again. If you have any hang up, you will know exactly where the hang up is based on what step you just did. All right. I've beat my head against the wall messing with these things for hours in some cases. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this back on here. It probably would have been a lot easier to put it on the actual Allen head first to give me something to grab onto. Okay, now we're going to put the thread in. Want to make sure that it's even. Okay, so we're going to jump up here. Want to make sure that it's even and that there's no. You don't want to sink it all the way tight. You just need to make sure that it's not sticking up. So that is bad. Okay, no good. That's exactly what we want. So then I test it again, and we're still working. Okay, if we're still working, then that's really good, and we can continue doing what we're doing. So I've got a 3. Next, I'm going to say that's this pin right here. Shove him in there. Do my test. Actually, I'm going to do my test with this. Beautiful. This little trick right here will save you countless hours of trying to figure out what the problem is. And that's how I figured out how a lot of the other cylinders are milled differently and require different specs, because the Schlegg pins on those depths that are printed on the key do not work with that system in some cases. Here again, we'll just go ahead and put it so it's flush. Test again, looking good. Next one, 6. So I've got my other 6 right here. Put that back in. Push this down. Looking really good. Again, got a top pin and a spring. Like so. Then a cap screw or a top screw, Allen head screw, whatever you want to call these little guys here. Key pin stack screw. You're gonna have to submit all these wonderful ideas to the list council. All right, we got one more here. So I'll push this in just like this.
Oh, actually, I messed up on that one. My apologies. We got to do a bottom pin first. 7. So finally, this is the one that I'm considering a 7. I think that's our 7. I'm about to find out whether it is or not. Okay, like that. Works better smooth. That was our number 7. Now we need to get our top pin in place. Then our spring. Okay. And then our top pin, like so. And then finally, our very last one. Make sure you always put all the pins back in place. Now, the reason that we build each individual chamber like this is because they are so different and difficult, and you can't really see what's going on. So you need to isolate where that problem is when you have the original problem, okay? Not later. That's going to be a bad time later. And spring and this fella. And there you have it. We now have our cylinder all rebuilt. You can see that it fully functions and operates the lobe of the lock like this. This little piece here, and like so. If you have problems with this after you get done, there are several things that could be happening. One of the things that can happen is you'll notice this lobe can actually move independently. That means that that little bit of spring tension that we were talking about before that kept kicking the key out, remember we were seeing that? It kept trying to push it out to here. There's a spring and a little driver pin in here that you're actually putting in this. So when you insert the key, you could pick this lock cylinder and it would not actually unlock the door. It would pick the lock cylinder, but it's not going to unlock the door because the tip of the key isn't driven in. Unless you're using a leashy tool or something that's going all the way inside and engaging that internal spring-driven pin to rotate the lobe, it's not going to happen. Lobe, drive cam, again, we'll talk to List Council about what they want to call all of these specific pieces. But so this piece has to be free spinning for the thumb turn on the inside, and then it also has to allow us to engage it from the outside. Technically, as we speak now, the research that I did shows that it would be called the drive cam. I'm actually wondering if we turn that over. Yeah, so there it is. Okay, so profile cylinders, they can be miserable, they can be good money. And some people know how to work on them and some people don't. If you do know how to work on them, you can put that money into your bank account or bring that in for your business as opposed to giving it to the competition. They are worth understanding and learning and dealing with. I've also seen ones from overseas, Vinkos. This is also an excellent demonstration or an excellent view of what's happening inside there. Okay, so you can actually see all of the pins, you can see everything that's actually happening here, right? So you can see how everything actually works. And this is a double keyed cylinder. This is a different brand here, okay? But they're the ones that made this one, and it works on either side, controlling that driver piece in there. But this is what's happening inside your profile cylinder, just so you know, so you can understand and see how those springs work and see how the shear line is met and see how everything works inside there. All righty. There you have it. For more information, check out the website below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. All righty. So do we have any other questions on profile cylinder rekeying or servicing as we talk right now? I've got a couple more videos on Facebook here and that Vinkos as well. Let's see which one this one is. I think we want to do this one. So here's one other thing. Getting it off the door can be tricky too. Here's one of the tips on how to get that off.
pull that, right?
Oh, sorry, we did not have sound.
See this little slot right there? You can barely see it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So normally we would just pull that, right? And turn it and pull it over. But this one actually has a detent in there. Okay, so now try and turn that knob. Does it turn? Mm-mm. Get something a little narrower here. Okay. You have to push. Oh man, there's gonna be like 5 different things at once. Okay. So try and push it now. Try and turn it. There. Hold that for me. Right on here, if you can.
So what's happening is there's actually a pin and a spring loaded into the Bible or into the housing that goes into the thumb turn on the inside, so it prevents you from removing the cylinder. There it goes.
Okay, so that's what it is there's a detent that locks that up in there that has to be depressed. And you can tell instantly because you'll see it. You'll see that line.
Right.
Some of these profile cylinders have it. Some of them don't. See how the lobe would be up in there?
Mm-hmm.
And then that stops it there and there on that detent. Until we have that to press it down to line up and let it out, it will not let it out. CES is the ones that make that. Okay, that's good.
Boy, I'm going over all kinds of stuff today with this.
And I just wanted to share a little bit about exactly what you're going to be watching in the video ahead here. We came to the job and there was a custom profile cylinder. So this is your profile style cylinders like so. Now this one, you can see there's no milling or anything in here. This is non-serviceable. I've heard that you can take the clips out of here and you can use like 1/2-inch pieces of wood doweling or a
Correction, it was non-serviceable before, and with the cradle that I demonstrated at the beginning, it now is serviceable.
follower cut, and you could try and follow that plug out from the center piece. You basically pull these clips, this piece pops out, and then you can follow it out that way. But it's miserable. It's a nightmare. Plus, I didn't know if I'd be able to have that clip to be able to put it back on there. I don't see how you could pull that clip off of there and not break it and have to have another one to put it back in. So this is the problem that I'm faced with. The main point is that they have to get this rekeyed. The existing keys can no longer work because they just fired somebody who was a property manager for that particular location, and it was assumed that they had malicious intent. So this lock could not work, and I cannot replace it. Bad times. Luckily, mine had caps where they were plugs in the caps, but it did at least give you the exact location of the pins and the holes for the pins in there. So most of your profile cylinders are going to look something like this. They're going to have this nice funky plastic cap on here. If you haven't seen my video, if that cap breaks, you can use screen spline in there. If you break that cap, it's a really cool little trick. You just tuck some of that screen spline in there. It's the same stuff that you use to spline your screens for your windows. And that's a little tip for that. But that's normally your serviceable area right there. You pop that and you can dump them all out and service them. Here's another one here that's non-serviceable, all kinds of anti-drill stuff in there. Here's another one that's serviceable. That little cap slides down and out. And then this is basically what I made. My main point being is if I could have, I would have replaced it with this right here, except for the other one was about this long. So it was way, way, way too long. You'd never get the key in there. You'd never be able to get this into that location. So at the end of the day, we had to do something. There was no option to not have that work. Option one is we could dead key it, where you basically just take a key and you cut a sharp hook into it with a file, and then you break that key off in there. It's going to neutralize it. At least nobody can get in. It's a temporary emergency fix. It buys you a little bit of time. That's all it does. Then you can get in there. You could replace it. You can fish that out when you can service it. Or you can do what I did. Because it gave me the locations of the plugs, I was able to drill those out and then use my drill bit taps, and actually go in there and re-tap those with threads and actually add Allen heads just like this right here. So now it's a permanently serviceable cylinder, and we could have changed that, and the key that worked it no longer works anymore. Customers happy, customers been provided security. We didn't have to do an all lockout dead key system on there, and we will replace it. They did want to order a new one. So we will go ahead and do so. But that is something, if you're in a pinch, in a bind, you can do too. Tap it, drill it, tap it, add cap screws to it, and you're good to go. I think it was a number 6 thread or size hole, and the fine thread in there. And then these little cap screws just go right in. I've got a whole box of them. So for more information, tips, tricks, all the fun stuff about locksmithing, check out wayneslockshop.com, and you can ride with me and see all of the weird, strange things that you can come across in the field. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Okay, now that we got all those drilled out, we're going to tap them out right here with this, just the top portion. So, okay, light and easy. Just till the threads go in, and that's it. Lubrication helps. If you get much resistance, back off. You do not want to break a tap off in there. Now we'll be able to thread some caps in there.
I'm not 100% sure what you mean with modular profile cylinders. If you want to shoot me an email or send me a private message, I can answer that question a little bit better later. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Now we should know how to service most of your European profile cylinders. Everything from Hoppy to Fur to Winkos to just about anything out there. Don't forget also, we're going to be having another. So this one every single Monday at 4 p.m. is the Locksmith Live podcast. Locksmith Live is going to be about an hour, usually 30 minutes to an hour, somewhere in there, where we give you technical data. I am starting completely at the beginning of locksmithing, so if you've missed any of the basics that I've already shown, go back to the very beginning and type in Locksmith Live and my name, Wayne Winton, and it'll take you to the beginning video series on how to rekey locks, what we should be doing for due diligence for rekeying locks, and you can take this program from the beginning and advance each day. We've gone over lock shimming, several different cylinders, and now this is profile lock cylinder servicing and rekeying, understanding the concepts of how it works, why it works, and what makes it tick. The biggest takeaways from today should be that little pin underneath the thumb turn on the inside. That can hang people up and get people in trouble sometimes. The other thing that can get people hung up is if they don't see the pins, that you can service them with that cradle tool. And then finally, if those white plastic caps break, you can replace that with some screen spline. Those are all great ideas and things that I really beat my head against the wall inside of my van trying to figure out. And it took a long time and a lot of effort. So I give that information to you as a free gift today. For more information, check out wayneslockshop.com. Also, if you'd like to join the next podcast that is on right after this, the first Monday of every month at 5 p.m., called Locksmiths United, where I try and unite all of the locksmiths and bring everybody together, that is going to be next. If you need the link for it, go to my social media pages, Facebook, or just hang out with me on YouTube, and it'll pop up as the next live event. So thank you so much. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a wonderful day. Let's see here. Follower was made with small round magnets. Yes, that's what I was talking about before the cradle. Join Locksmith Nation. Jack, thank you. Okay, great. So profile cylinders, know how to service them. WaynesLockshop.com, just as it sounds. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for joining. Have a good one.